Good morning. A grey morning, a green morning, and Mount Arbel is greening up. So I have an idea. I'm going to take you inside to see what the volunteers have been doing into Duc and Altum. Go out into the deep. A marvelous word. Hey, do I see flowers up there still? I don't believe it. Wow, I didn't realize the flowers were so late here. So there are two colors here. There's this yellow tree, and there's the one here in front of us is red. And it turns red for Pentecost, so that's June, so that's 6 months ago. And then we have the yellow one, and they're still flowering. They flower usually a couple of weeks later. Maybe by July, the yellow ones are flowering, and they're still going strong. So let's go in and see what the volunteers have been preparing for Christmas. And I'm doing that for you as well because I won't be here for quite a while. We're leaving on Saturday for our retreat. So here you see the three kings, the wise men from the east, preparing, watching the skies, watching for the stars. And here we have two donkeys. No, a donkey and a cow. And then we have the nativity set. Here, the Holy Family, waiting for the baby to arrive. And the manger. And then we have another set over here with the shepherds. I think I'm just going to go out here on this side. Somebody is praying there, so I don't want to speak too much inside and allow them to have their space and time for prayer. And I always like the feel of outdoors anyway. I'm not sure what you prefer in the live stream. I think you like the feel of outdoors as well. That's my interpretation. So people, today we have very interesting messages. The readings are amazingly paired from the Old Testament and the New Testament, the Gospel readings. And the psalm is usually really emphasizing the Old Testament reading. There obviously is a prayer for all of us who are Christians. The Psalms are a very powerful prayer. And we're very conscious that these words would have been prayed in Nazareth with Joseph and Mary and the lad Jesus growing up as he grew in wisdom, age and grace before God and man. And it's an interesting thing that the Psalms were continued to be prayed by the church to this very day, and actually in the same structure in a way as they were done in the temple 2,000 years ago. Jesus never asked us to quit praying the Psalms. I'm sure as he taught us the Our Father, they often pray the Psalms together. Look at the children here doing their work. The families who are staying here at the moment, forgetting their little sandals. Imagine all the thousands of details that goes into 1 year in a child's life, and even hundreds of details that go into 1 day in a child's life. The scores and scores of details that teachers prepare, parents prepare, siblings do with each other, the whole process of growth. And the Psalms were part of that as well in Jesus' life. That whole process of growth. So today we have very, very strong message, a demanding message, a powerful message, but it's also a message that's filled with love and hope. And it's the message for the person who wants to follow and build one's life on the Lord. Now, what are the alternatives? Well, one alternative would be to build it on investments, money, on properties. Another one could be to build it on military power. Another one could be to build it on fame. Another one could be to build it on political connections. You know, those are very important. Today we have a major memory in the church of St. Ambrose, and he was an amazing guy who, in a very difficult time for the church internally and externally, he was actually not even baptized, and he was acclaimed Bishop of Milan. And he really went into, he was then baptized, received the sacraments, was ordained, and became Bishop of Milan. And he had amazing impact because he learned from the scriptures. And he learned the reading of the scriptures that the first generations of the Christians had done. And he really was built on rock. I remember at home visiting a few years ago, my brother was building a new extension to the silage pit. And we had some other plans to go traveling, but he had to do it because of bad weather before that. So I was working with him, and there were huge stones, bigger than these, a whole bed of them they were packed in together. My job was on the steamroller, crushing the smaller stones that were poured on top of those, and then the gravel and the readiness to pour concrete, to build on rock. And when the rains come, they can wash away all the dirt, but if it's built on rock, then the house stays standing. I don't know if you know that underneath our guest house here, there are hundreds of columns going like 60 or 80 feet deep, because the subsoil here is very inconsistent and very fragile. It's precisely almost like a riverbed, and it's not rock. And so we had to, the engineers with all the analysis called for very significant foundations to sustain the building. To build on rock, to build on God's word. And the interesting thing was that Ambrose stood very firm with the winds. The emperor was trying to have tremendous control over the church. And Ambrose coined a famous proverbial line that the emperor is not above the church, he's within it. He's a member of it, another baptized person. And that's the thing, you know, you could build your life being an emperor on the power and the glory of being emperor, the respect given, a strong army. And there was one particular emperor at that time, what was his name? I think he was the guy who built also the Basilica in Bethlehem, the expansion of it. Oh, help me with my names. And he actually, in his rage, carried out a massacre against people who had an uprising in Greece. And Ambrose declared that completely incompatible with being a disciple of Jesus, and had this emperor do public penance. He refused him entry at the steps of the cathedral in Milan. And then there was an empress who was imposing false teaching on the church of the Arians, denying the divinity of Christ. And he also resisted that incredible pressure that she was putting on to get her friends placed in positions. And to be able to resist pressure, the pressures of life, the pressures of advice of friends which is not good advice. To build on rock. You know, up here, it looks like we're pretty solid with all this rock underneath us here. And yet there's a spot here where obviously erosion and rain or something that has opened a hole. So obviously between these rocks there are big gaps. And this spot here gave way. To build our house on rock. To build our life on rock. And some people feel very comfortable with investments, but at the end of the day, if your trust isn't in God, that bank can fail, that company can fail, like a wave of COVID can come and wipe out a whole industry, and it was a little bacteria, a little virus, a little nothing, you know, and it wipes out all the plans we had made. On what do we build our lives? To build it on God's word. That's the big challenge for all of us. Let's just look for a moment at a couple of the texts. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. His mercy endures forever. We can count on God's mercy. We can build our lives on it. Because sometimes also we tend to want to build our life on our feelings. And if we have that criteria, when we're down, we're really down. But if we're in very bad straits but have great faith in God's mercy, then we can hold out. And who won't have moments of great trial and doubt? Even the greatest saints, it's recorded in their stories, have had moments of incredible sadness and doubt. Think of the great patron of priests, Jean-Marie Vianney, and he's absolutely an extraordinary man of sanctity, a man who lived completely in the environment of God with great simplicity. His story is amazing. But he had incredible, maybe today you'd call it depression, about his own salvation in the time before he died. And some people have major assaults of evil in their lives, in their assaulting them. How do we build our lives? On rock. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes, political contacts, great leaders. To trust in the Lord. And these are the words that Jesus basically uses in his image there at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, up from the Mount of Beatitudes. And when he finishes all that marvelous teaching, he says, the one who builds on his words are building on rock. And this is why these readings are here in Advent, because we're trying to understand and prepare ourselves for the coming of Christ. And here we have a very strong word from Isaiah about the one who is built on God. A strong city have we. He set up walls and ramparts to protect us. Open up the gates of the city to let in a nation that is just, one that keeps faith, that puts trust in God's word, that's just, that follows God's word, not just verbally reiterates it like also Jesus' criticism. And people say, Lord, 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 build your house on rock. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord is an eternal rock. This is Isaiah. He humbles those in high places, and the lofty city he brings down. He tumbles it to the ground, levels it with the dust. So these are exactly the same, basically the exact same idea, almost copy-paste, that we see in Jesus' mouth. Everyone who listens to these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, and lots of it fell last night, thanks be to God. The rain fell, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, but it did not collapse. So the baby Jesus is not just a little nostalgia in Bethlehem. It's the rock, the continuity of this imagery in Isaiah, of this teaching about building on trust in God. Trust in his person, building our life on rock. People, I let you go with this. I wish you many blessings today. Have a blessed day as you go deeper in your life into the great teaching, into the mystery of God. And thank you for putting up with me, all of you who are atheists and agnostics. But I hope we can continue in good dialogue and company as we discuss these themes in which maybe there are different feelings. God bless you all. See you later, alligators.